Good day. It was quite somber in terms of mood and weather this morning, with the clouds being quite overcast and it being quite dull and grey. Though this afternoon, it's now 20 to 2, and the weather has really cheered up the day and my day, and I've decided to crack on, do the good British thing and crack on and get my turnips in. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. These are our modular sown turnips over here. These are Portuguese cabbage here. So purple top Milan at the front, Goldana at the back. Can't really see much difference between them at the moment, because even these, I don't know if you can see that, but that's slightly pinky. Maybe these are a bit more pinky in the stem, not sure. But yes, these are white with purple tops, and these are golden, as the name Goldana suggests. We sowed these on the 3rd of August. What's it now? The 18th of September. So that's sort of 6 weeks ago, isn't it? Not quite exactly, but 6 weeks ago. And these are certainly ready to go in. Let me just pull them up, hopefully without disturbing you. Oh, yeah, you can see the root systems. The roots are all coming out the bottom, and it's a good time to get these in. Well, in fact, if I don't get them in now, they're unlikely to grow on in the ground before the real cold weather sets in. So yes, let me get on with that. Those turnips are going to go into this bed. There's a few beans germinating in there. I was going to take them out, but I'm not going to worry about them, because the first signs of real frost and they'll be gone. Though there is a little bit of bindweed that I can see right at the edge over here and up here. So I'm going to be taking that out before I plant the turnips up. So yeah, I'm also thinking there's just a bit more soil in this area, so I'm going to rake it just a little bit flatter as well. So first of all, I'm just going to take the bindweed out, and then I'm just going to rake it flat and then lay out the modular sown turnips, and we'll see it then. I've just taken all of the Goldana out of their modules. You can see this one's just got one seedling in it, and the module was therefore sort of quite loose. But these, what's that, there's 4 in there, so that module is quite tight with roots. And hopefully you can see that the roots on all of them are, yeah, really pretty good. So now to lay these out, and then lay the purple top Milan out as well. And I expect the purple top Milan to be exactly like this when I take them out of their modules. These are the purple top Milan. If anything, they've got a more robust block of compost around them. Not quite sure why that is, because maybe they're just sort of better root systems, but they look very similar. Anyway, there we are. These have been laid out. So we now have purple top Milan on the right, 2 rows. We've got 2 rows of Goldana on the left. And then in the middle here, we just got 2, one of each, because there's 15. So laying them out this way, there's 14 and 1 extra. So what I think I'm going to do here is direct sow some chard. Bit late, but why not? There's space for it, so might as well do that. Right, now I'm going to get on and use my trowel to make a hole, and then just place each of these into that hole. Well, each of them into their own individual hole. It would be silly to make one big hole and put them all in, having spaced them out like this. firming in. Oh, and the sun's out. Firming in. Those are now all planted out, so they're in their bed. There's been a couple of helicopters over, which I'm sure are other YouTubers trying to pick up a few tips, though in reality they're most probably following the Queen's cortege as it goes down towards Windsor, because it must be in where's that, Brentford at the moment, something like that. So I think that's what the helicopters are all up there for. So now I'm going to do what I normally do, and that's give these a really good water. One for sorrow, they say, but that's a magpie I think that we see quite often here. There's two of them and we do see them quite often. But anyway, pleased to have got those turnips in. Whether they'll come to anything this year or not, we shall wait and see. If we have days like this, even if we have cooler nights, there's a really good chance that we could be pulling some of those in 6 weeks time, so sort of towards the end of October, but that is all going to be dependent on weather. I've been looking at the beans that you can see there, and though there's still flowers and they are still producing, I'm thinking about taking those out sometime this week. But what I do need to do is tidy up the tomatoes, do some picking of green to take home. And the other job that I really need to do is watering of our butternut squash, because they're doing okay. They're still putting up with these chilly nights, even though on a plot 1, 2, 3 away from me, further towards the lower end of this site, they have butternut squash that were frostbitten 2 nights ago. The butternut squash were very young and they're not going to develop now, but the leaves particularly were frostbitten. Ours up here are still doing okay, and I'm wondering about fleecing them, just to give them a little extra protection. The fleece, of course, will let the sun through and the warmth of the sun through, but it will trap some of the heat overnight that builds up during the day. Yeah, I'll have a think about that. Right, I will see you again very soon. Bye. Good day. I am in the poly, as you can see. I'm down here really quite briefly. It's Wednesday lunchtime. I've just met an artist who is going to be doing a painting of, or inspired, let's say, by the allotments here. And he has come down with his camera to go around the site and take photographs to inspire him for the inspiration that he is going to paint as a piece of artwork. And it's going to be hanging in the charity's offices. So that's really nice, and it's sort of like part of the 100 years of being our association as well. So that's great. So I've just met him at the gate. I've showed him the way around, and he's just pottering about. I can see him actually taking photos now on my plot. And I thought, whilst he's doing that, because he's going to be 15 minutes, half an hour, something like that, whilst he's doing that, I'm just going to potter around, do a few things, do some harvesting. But I thought I would also show you the Marvel of Four Seasons lettuce that we planted here last Sunday, was it? And also have a quick look at the turnips, which I put out 2 days ago, to see how they are bedding in. I must admit, when I passed earlier, I saw them obviously, and they are looking pretty good. And yeah, between the poly and the turnips, between the lettuce and the turnips, we'll most probably have a look at a few other things as well. So yeah, let's start down here with these Marvel of Four Seasons. These are the Marvel of Four Seasons that we put in the other day. That's a Mizuna, that green one, self-seeded. Yeah, the Marvel of Four Seasons, none have been nibbled yet, which is good. Obviously an awful lot of growing for them to do, and fingers crossed they get on and do that. The nights are getting quite chilly now though, so we shall see. But you can see how green everything is, how the weeds and the grass are really growing, but the whole plot is looking tired. If we come over here, this is the courgette that's been doing really well for us, and you can see it's still producing in there, but the leaves this end have got powdery mildew on them, but still loads coming in there. Look at that, all of those. Whilst the cucumbers, they're really giving up the ghost now. This one's being saved for seed. In fact, we've only got 2 to pick. There's one in there and there's one there, and both of those will go into a curry, but the rest I'm leaving for seed. So there's some more over here, not quite as yellow. I think I might take this one off and just leave this one and this one to go to seed. And this courgette rather, that's not really done well for us all year, is producing a couple now. But this bed was weeded 10 days ago fully, and you can see how much weed has come up, but that's okay. Even the tomatoes over there are looking tired, and I'll be removing, I think, tomatoes quite soon, tomato plants. Disappointed by the amount of grass coming up in this fruit bed, but hey ho. Yeah, I mean, even the beetroot leaves are beginning to look a bit tired. Oddly enough, we haven't really had any decent rain for a while again, so. But then we come over to the turnips, which we put in the other day, and they have settled in really well, so I'm pleased about that. I will be giving them a little bit of a water later on because we haven't had the rain. In fact, I'll be giving the brassicas in here a water as well. I might have to even top up the pond. There isn't an order to not top up ponds at the moment, so I may do that. And look at the new growth coming on these cardoons. They've all gone to seed, rather majestic. But yeah, new growth down there, which is great. And still got blooms coming. Though, as I say, we've got some developing, but they're proving to be, these are runners, proving to be a bit sour, a bit tart. But yeah, the changes of the leaves are all there, as you can see. They're beginning to lose their luster. Right, I'm avoiding the cardoon. I will leave it there now we've had a look at the lettuce and the turnips, and I'll see you soon another day. Bye. Good day and welcome to about take 29 of the Friday afternoon segment of this week's A Week at the Plot. I don't know what it's been. Literally this must be take 15, take 16. The mood is not grabbing me today, to be quite frank. I looked at the budget news and honestly, you know, yeah, good for the rich, good for the mega rich particularly, but you know, what about society as a whole? And then I came down here about, it's 5 to 5. I started recording this at 4:30 and there's been a few interruptions. Anyway, when I came down here it was grey and now it's sunny with blue skies. So, you know, Paul, take that on board. And the sunflowers behind you are really popping in this sun, just like this is popping and flaring as well, I now notice. But yeah, I came down here today. It's been an odd day, a sort of busy day for me, though when I actually look back at what I've achieved and what I've done, I think a lot of it has been pondering, sitting in a chair, pondering, not even making notes, or not physically making notes, but making notes in my head and coming up with thoughts and ideas and shaping some things. And you know what? I realised when I was doing my article for the Guernsey Press, a Guernsey gardener in London this week, that this is the last full week of September. And as many of you know, my growing year is October to September. So this is actually the last full week of my growing year. And, you know, as we go into next week's A Week at the Plot, we're in September still, but the weekend at the back end of A Week at the Plot is October, you know. So yeah, it's it feels like autumn, and it feels like autumn not just out there, but it feels like autumn in here as well, I have to say. I have been looking and thinking about things that I've done well this year. There aren't that many. Things that have been challenging this year, there are quite a few. And how I'm going to do things next year. And I'll come on to that another day, because what happened today is I got down here and I was wandering around the plot and I realised I feel a bit overwhelmed by the whole thing. The grasses have really grown, even though I've trimmed twice in the last 3 weeks. The weeds have really grown. The things that we really want to continue growing are really falling back. You know, I've said before that autumn has come early, and it's really, really early. I mean, today is actually the start of astronomical autumn. So we had meteorological autumn starting on the 1st of September, and then today is the start of astronomical autumn. So for the plot to be looking so shabby at the moment, with so many plants having gone over, it really is early. It really is early. And then next week, it looks as though the weather forecast is for us to get quite a few degrees cooler than we are at the moment, which the butternuts do not need, certainly, and the tomatoes do not need either. But you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. At certain points this year, I felt overwhelmed. I've said that. And I've got on top of things, or taken hold of things and got on top of them. So one day I just sorted out the area in front of the 1940s shed and the decrepit shed. It was a mess, and the whole thing was just driving me mad every time I came down here, but I was doing nothing about it. So I took the bull by the horns, or I took the seed trays by my hands, and I sorted out that whole area. And I felt really good about it. It took me about 4 hours, maybe 5 hours over an afternoon. And I was really, really pleased I sorted it out. And when I've come down here today and seen the amount of work that does need to be done, it's demoralizing. But I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. But it is demoralizing. The other thing that is now really playing on me is I know that next year we are going to be moving. You know, unless we win the lottery, we will be moving next year. And even if we did win the lottery, which I'm not sure whether we do or not, but if we did win the lottery, we would likely move and rent out the house anyway. So I'd be giving up this plot, because we wouldn't be living in the area for this for the catchment of this allotment. So I'm back in that quandary that I was a year ago. I wish I'd known a year ago I was still going to be here a year, because what do I do next year? There are certain things that I am sure I will be able to do. But if we're going to be moving in June, July, August, something like that, you know, should I be doing squash? Because they're going to be coming to harvest, particularly, you know, winter squash, butternut squash and things like that. They're going to be coming to harvest by the time we've moved. So I think I need to think carefully about what I do next year. And also that means, therefore, how I prepare for that. Because over the coming months, as we get into October and then November, there's work to do on this plot, putting it to bed and preparing for what we're going to do next year. So, you know, there's lots of thoughts to have, and I'm having those at the moment. And I suppose just feeling that little bit overwhelmed today with all of the growth, but the growth in areas that you don't really want growth to be, you know, your grasses, your weeds. But I'm sure tomorrow I will feel, you know, very differently. But I do need to think about the next 9 months, because I think our next growing season is going to be no more than 9 months. You know, I think by the end of June into July, we will be moving. So really, I need to think about what I can get going and harvest before the end of June. It's not that I don't want to leave things for another plot holder, or plot holders, because I think this plot would be split in two when I leave, unless another person on site takes it on to have a larger growing space. Yeah, it's not that I don't want to leave things for other people, because that will happen anyway. I'll be leaving the polytunnel. I'll be leaving quite a few things, but it's about what I'm going to grow, because it's obviously, now that I know that move is going to happen, where last year at this time I thought it was going to happen, pretty sure it was going to happen. Now we know it's going to happen next year. So, you know, that's a different mentality that I'm taking on at the beginning of next growing year, which starts in, what's that, 7-8 days time, on the 1st of October. So yeah, and the sun has come out and it's just looking glorious now. So I shouldn't feel too bad. You know what, I think a bit of strimming and covering up of certain areas is going to do me the world of good over the coming week, so that when I get into October, I know what work I have to do, because I think that that will help. I mean, it's interesting. I was talking in my article for the Guernsey Press, a Guernsey Gardener in London. I was talking about the autumn of the seasons, the season of autumn. But I also feel as though we as gardeners and growers, we feel autumn as well. Not just, oh, the seasons are changing and it's getting darker. I think there's a sort of almost cerebral change in us when those seasons change. And I think the biggest change that we see is when we see summer go to autumn, particularly when it's this type of change that we've had over the last 4 weeks. So yeah. Anyway, look, I'm sorry, this has been a waffle. Indira, it has been a waffle. And I'm not going to apologise about that. I'm frustrated about the flaring, but yeah, what do I do about that? Anyway, never mind, never mind. I know where I'm at, and I need to go home and make a few notes on paper about the things that need to be done, which I think includes next week taking out all of our tomatoes. I think it's time to empty the beds. I think it is. Right, I'm going to go before this carries on flaring. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. These are the 2 poly beds of tomatoes. Oh, and there's a little ginger catty. Can you see there? Oh, so cute. Hello, Gingy. Hello, Gingy. He says, yeah, whatever. I've decided to take these out today. There's hardly any fruit on them. The green fruit will either ripen at home or we'll make it into green tomato curry. And the ones that are ripening we'll just sort of take home and eat those. But such a disappointing couple of beds of tomatoes this year. I'll talk more about tomatoes and how they've done this year at a later date. But yeah, these which were the first to go in just sort of got nowhere. You know, last year the year before, because last year we had blight, 2 years ago these were up to 6 foot, going on for 7 foot. But no, not this year. And the number of fruit that we've had has been really, really poor. So the first thing I'm going to do is harvest all of the fruit off. And then what I'm going to do is just cut the plants down to the ground and leave the roots in, obviously taking the canes out. So that's what I'm going to get on and do. So there we are. those 2 beds emptied of tomatoes, the tomatoes harvested, and the cut up plants will actually be going into our compost. And another day I'll sort out weeding of the beds. But you know, we do have some lovely, look at that self-seeded pansy there, gorgeous. And this is that feverfew, I think, just about to flower. Obviously some calendula in there. I'm noticing an awful lot of this type of grass. It's in the fruit bed and it sort of looks like proper grass seed. Obviously all of these are weeds. This is a verbascum. Here we have celeriac. They're doing okay. Yeah, well, I'm not even showing you. They're doing okay. In fact, I think there's a few ants on that one. A few ants on all of them. A lot of ants this year, but that's okay. They could do with the water. Lots of self-seeded corn salad here. And then look at this. Look at that yellow. Can I get that into focus? Look at that. Very different to the orange. Very, very different. And then over here, we noticed this morning, there's some California poppy flowering. Lots of California poppy seedlings coming up. These are California poppy here. These are Nigella, I think. So I think this is going to be left as a sort of flower bed. I think we'll look at what we do to this end here and look at what we do to that end there. Maybe put some, maybe cover it actually and put some beetroot in next year, because I think we're going to be doing something with brassicas next week, because I spotted something a bit this morning. But yeah, I'm really pleased. After saying the other day how I feel a little bit overwhelmed, just getting this job done has helped me today, and getting further jobs done will also help me. So hopefully this week I'll be able to crack on a little bit and get on top of weeding and covering some beds. The verbascum, there's one there, there's 2 here. You know, they're just wonderful. This is chicory, wild chicory. That's going to come up with a fabulous flower next year. What on earth is that? You see that? Tiny red thing. It's not a, I don't think it's a ladybird. It looks too small. Maybe Jays knows what that is. But yeah. And that pop of that yellow over there with the calendula. Fabulous. So that's it for this week's A Week at the Plot. Just a quick visit today to do that small job. Took me maybe half an hour to do. And as I said, I've left the roots in of the tomato plants. I've just cut the stem off above the root line. So just above ground level, and those roots can just decompose over the coming months. So yeah, that's absolutely fine to do. And I think we might be doing similar with our runner beans, because we might try and overwinter some of those. So I will have a think about that. But yeah, I said earlier in the week I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and to get this job done today is just great. You know, it's a small job to complete in the array of jobs that need to be done down here to get the plot winter ready. But you know what, we've got time to do that. We're dipping into colder weather over the next couple of days, but then it looks as though we're going to warm up a few degrees as well. So I've been talking to a few people about whether I leave the other tomatoes in, what they're going to be doing. And I think the consensus is leave the tomatoes in on everyone's plot and see what happens with the weather, because certainly if it gets back to what it's like today, which is rather lovely and sunny and warm when it's in the sun, then those tomatoes will continue ripening. So yeah, that's it for this week, and I'm so glad to have got those turnips in, because there's something I'm going to be sorting out next week, which I've realized yesterday. I won't talk about it till next week, but we're going to be sorting something out next week, which is a bit of a not another problem. But you know what, having those turnips in at the beginning of this week and seeing how well they're doing at the moment, I'm really pleased about that. So yeah, that's quite an uplift. And what's also an uplift is chatting to the people who are down here today. There's quite a few, and it's been really lovely to do that. And we've got some purple French beans that we've been given, and we've also got some beetroot that we've been given. So, you know, yeah, life's good. Life's okay. Life's good. Yeah. See you very soon. Bye.